Over the past few days, I've been reading a lot about media, and I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. Look at all these headlines from the past year or so. Netflix is adding podcasts, YouTube is offering movies, Mr. Beast has a show on Amazon, Spotify is adding video, OpenAI is using Disney characters on Sora, and of course, we all heard about Netflix trying to buy Warner Brothers, but while everybody's screaming monopoly, the CEO says it's their only way to compete with YouTube. It's almost as if Hollywood and social media, these two completely different industries, are becoming the same thing. When I started making this video, I thought it would just be about Netflix buying Warner Brothers, but the truth is, the story is much bigger than that. It's bigger than the streaming wars and bigger than just Netflix versus YouTube. Something strange is going on, and to understand it, I had to go back to the start of media as we know it and answer a question I wasn't expecting to ask. What happens when companies stop competing inside the same industry and entire industries start competing against each other? Right now, the business of media is at a tipping point. Things are going to start changing very fast. So let's go back to the beginning. It all starts with this thing. This is a kinetograph, the first camera capable of capturing multiple images in quick succession, therefore giving the illusion of movement. The kinetograph was invented by Thomas Edison in the 1890s, and he actually built a studio, he had a whole production company. For a while there, they were pretty much the only people making what you would now call video, but it wasn't long before this became an entire industry and you started to get the first proper movies. The only problem was, if you wanted to be a part of this, it was tough. First of all, if you wanted to make a movie, you had to buy a camera, you needed to build sets and buy the film and hire actors. To get your movie out there, you had to reproduce your film and put it in this massive disc and physically mail it all around the country. Then if you wanted to see a movie, you had to go to a theater because it was the only place where they had projectors. I mean, at this point, making a movie was a monumental task, but it didn't stay that way for long. As technology progressed over the course of the 20th century, producing and distributing media became a lot more accessible. Cameras got a lot better and they became more available. Then television came around, this entirely new medium where you could transmit video over the air, meaning people could watch stuff pretty much at all times. By the 80s, you had digital video and the cameras themselves started finding their way into the hands of consumers. And then 1990s, the internet, 2005, YouTube comes around. Suddenly, anyone can pick up a camera and put a video together. And more than that, you can distribute it to the entire world pretty much immediately for absolutely free. Pretty cool, right? But this is actually kind of the problem. Back in the days of old Hollywood, the production and the distribution of media was not only expensive, but also just difficult. The barrier to entry was extremely high, but with the internet, it's effectively disappeared. And if you want to understand the chaos that is media today, this is the first piece of the puzzle. But there is another component to this. So we're in 2005, YouTube's gaining traction, Facebook is just barely expanding outside universities, and we get Batman Begins and Revenge of the Sith. From this point on, you have these two industries. On the one hand, you have traditional media. A lot of stuff falls under this umbrella. Movies, television, news, and streaming services, which we'll talk about in a second. And on the other hand, you have social media. This is where you have your YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, this kind of stuff, like creator-led content. Just a few years ago, these industries were pretty much completely isolated from each other. But you'll see as technology gets better, the lines between them start to blur. And the first time you can actually start to see this is with Netflix. In 2007, Netflix changed from being a movie delivery service to what you know them as today, a streaming platform. But at the time, I mean, if you wanted to watch a movie, the best television sets looked like this. You went to the movie theater because the experience was just better. But again, it didn't stay that way for long. Today in the US, the average price of a movie ticket is $13.17. The standard plan on Netflix is $18 a month, and there's more content there than you could possibly watch in a lifetime. Plus, think about it, apart from 3D and IMAX, what can a movie theater really offer today that a good television set or an iPad can? I mean, don't get me wrong, going to the movies is great, but you have to get there and wait in line and watch the ads, and you can't pause it or lie on your couch, and worst of all, some asshole 2 seats down from you will be doom scrolling on full brightness, and you can't doom scroll without becoming the asshole. Plus, no Netflix and chill. Point is, as televisions have gotten better, movie theaters have lost a lot of their key selling points. It's one of the many reasons why you hear they're dying. In the US, only around 16% of people say they go to the movies at least once a month, but they spend an average of almost 2 hours each day on streaming services, a surprising amount of which is just choosing what to watch. But either way, streaming platforms have clearly replaced the movie theater, and what we're seeing here is a change in medium. Movies are shifting from being consumed in theaters to mostly on television, smartphones, laptops, tablets. But there's just one problem with that, and you can probably guess what it is. Phones, tablets, and laptops are where you consume social media, and it's also getting to TV. As this industry has matured, the tools for content creators have gotten a lot better and more accessible. Check if you want, if you have anything above an iPhone 6, you can shoot in 4K. This video you're watching, which has some production value, I hope has some cost, but it's really nothing out of this world. When you look at much bigger channels, Mr. Beast and a reality TV show are not worlds apart. In fact, you could point to thousands of creators that are honestly putting Hollywood to shame. It's genuinely impressive how good some of the content is getting, especially on YouTube, which is why more and more people are watching it on TV. Just to put this in perspective, right now Netflix accounts for around 8% of all television watch time in the US. YouTube, by comparison, is more like 13%. So again, what you're seeing here is a medium shift. Social media is now on all of your devices, and it's even dominating TV, which you'd probably associate more with traditional media. That is the second piece of this puzzle, and it's what fascinates me about this story. It used to be that movie studios like Paramount and Disney would compete to see who made more money at the box office, and social media companies like Instagram and Snapchat would compete to see who got more users. It was competition within the industry. But now you have these entire industries that just a few years ago had very little to do with each other, competing for the same limited supply of attention on the same mediums. So my question is, what happens when this happens? What happens when companies stop competing within the same industry and entire industries start competing against each other? Well, it turns out it's not the first time this happens, and since we're talking about media, we don't even need to look too far. This is a Sony Cybershot DSC W90 from 2007, and this is an iPhone 7. Cute, right? It's also very powerful. I guess I already mentioned it, but this thing can shoot in 4K, and it took all of these pictures. Well, not this one, I can't actually get it to turn on. The reason I bring this up is that at one point, phones were just phones and cameras were just cameras. Canon just wanted better sensors than Sony, and Motorola wanted better antennas than Nokia. They were separate industries, but again, it didn't stay that way for long. Eventually, phones started taking pictures and getting better and better with every new release. Camera sales peaked in 2010, somewhere between these two, but from there, it was all downhill, because why would the average person need to carry around a dedicated camera if they already had one in their pocket and was more than good enough? This is what happens when two products from completely different industries start competing with each other. One of them is simply the better choice for the average person most of the time, and the other one pretty much dies. Or actually, a better way to put it is that it gets absorbed. See, you could make a very compelling case that despite this graph, today the consumer camera market is thriving more than it ever has. Sony, for example, makes the sensors inside the iPhone's cameras, and Samsung's, and Xiaomi's. Their technology is being used more than ever before. It's just the interface that has changed. It's a medium shift, exactly what happened to old Hollywood and exactly what's happening to all of media today. Just like consumer cameras became part of a larger thing, smartphones, movie studios became part of streaming. And now it's the same thing again with traditional media and social media. One of these industries will have to get absorbed, but this leads us to some pretty major questions. Which one, and what happens next? To truly answer this, we need to tie everything back to the two fundamentals of media: production and distribution. On the distribution side, platforms like Netflix and YouTube are really no different. Like, streaming video over the internet is really not complicated, which is why as streaming and social media converge, it's sort of starting to feel like they're becoming each other. For example, Netflix is going to start streaming podcasts, and they have a cheaper ad-supported tier. Mr. Beast has a show on Amazon. Mark Rober is getting one on Netflix. Disney is letting OpenAI use their characters on Sora, which is actually a whole video of its own. These are just a few examples of traditional media entering the social media space, but it's the same on the other side. All of these traditional talk shows like Jimmy Fallon style now get most of their viewership from YouTube. You can now rent movies there too. There are entire streaming platforms with content just from social media creators like Nebula. And like I said earlier, some of this less professional content is giving Hollywood a run for its money. Now, I think this is a sign of things to come. 10 years from now, platforms like Netflix and YouTube are probably going to look similar in a lot of ways. But what's really going to determine who gets absorbed here is how they differ. If you think back to the camera and the smartphone, one of the big reasons phones won is because it's very hard for a phone to become a camera. But if you make it a small part of one, that makes sense. Now, ask yourself this question: how hard is it for Netflix to become YouTube? Or does option B just make a lot more sense? Truth is, it's already happening. Just like how cameras became a part of phones, movies and TV shows are now just a tab inside of YouTube. But it's kind of hard to see that happening the other way around. So I guess on the distribution side, that's a point for social media. But now on the production side, everything comes down to content. And this is where it gets a little tricky. Go to YouTube or Netflix and there's more content that you could possibly watch in your entire lifetime. But that is actually still not enough, because as good as The Godfather is, people want new stuff. This is why I think social media as an industry has a distinct advantage over traditional media. Making a movie or a TV show is very expensive and slow and difficult, and if it doesn't make money, you could end up losing millions of dollars. Making this YouTube video is not that expensive. It takes about a week and a half. I can do it all myself, and if it doesn't get a million views, I'll be fine. If it does, I'll make a nice chunk of change. Honestly, it's kind of awesome. You give millions of incredibly talented and passionate people the freedom to make videos and a financial incentive to do so, and you get an infinite amount of new content every single hour of the day. This is something no individual Hollywood studio or streaming service could possibly compete with. Social media is simply too scalable, and this actually kind of explains the entire Warner Brothers situation. We all heard it was a massive story. Netflix made a bid to buy Warner Brothers for $80-something billion, and everybody immediately said they're becoming a monopoly, which is a fair point to make. But here's the thing: when a company in the US wants to buy another one, they're actually legally required to make a case for why the merger would improve competition instead of making it worse. Netflix's argument was that this wasn't just about the streaming wars, it was about the whole attention economy. Think about it, even with Warner Brothers, they're still behind YouTube on TV, and that's not even counting Instagram or TikTok or even video games. When you think of it that way, Netflix doesn't want to buy Warner Brothers to compete with Disney on streaming subscriptions. They're competing for every waking second of your attention against a system with an infinitely renewable supply of something new. So yes, this acquisition might turn Netflix into a Hollywood monopoly, but honestly, what other choice do they have? They're fighting a losing battle, and so is everyone else. This is why Warner Brothers merged with Discovery, why Skydance bought Paramount, and why Disney bought Marvel and Star Wars and National Geographic and Fox and ABC and ESPN. These companies are consolidating because for now, it's the only way that they, individually as companies, can compete with social media as an industry. It's a desperate move for survival, but they're just prolonging the inevitable. It's honestly hard to see it playing out any other way. Like phones absorb cameras and like streaming absorbed movie studios, social media will end up absorbing traditional media. It's never gonna go away entirely, even these things never did. And I mean, filmmaking is a wonderful form of art, and there's definitely something to be said about the value of the kind of shared cultural moments that only something like Game of Thrones or Avengers Endgame can create. There's obviously demand for professionally produced media, and there always will be, but still, it seems to me like in the grand scheme of things, there is a clear winner in this race. Now, before you worry, just in my opinion, this is probably a good thing. You know, evolution is tough, but kind of tends to make things better. So who knows? We might just be in for a media renaissance. Let me know what you think, and somewhere around here is another video you can watch. See you in the next one.